It's really easy in today's culture to either starve yourself or to be gluttonous. That year that I was seeing all that progress, I wasn't tracking like that. You don't have to do that forever. You just have to do it very strategically. My muscles were starting to look more toned, and I was able to just cut the fat fast because I gave my body what it needed in the initial stages. Sometimes we are stressing ourselves out so much that we are. Welcome to The Faithful Physique, the podcast for Christian women who want to lose fat, build muscle, and become strong physically and spiritually, all for the glory of God. I'm Sember, and each week we'll discover what it means to steward our bodies, strengthen our faith, and pursue health without losing sight of the one we're doing it for. Hello and welcome back to The Faithful Physique. In today's episode, I want to talk about nutrition and some of the toxic fitness beliefs that a lot of us women are believing and are falling prey to. I honestly believe that there's so many lies out there that a lot of people are believing that is holding them back from seeing the progress they want and operating in all that God's calling them to be, because they feel like there's only one way or one solution. And today I want to bust some of those myths, because like I said, I have fallen prey to some of these lies myself, especially as an Olympian and somebody who's trained at a really, really high level for years. I believed a lot of the things that culture was feeding me and all the things that told me, hey, you got to do it this way in order to see success, and you have to do it that way in order to get the body that you want. There have been so many things that I didn't realize that I was doing that were either harming my body, making me tired, hindering my progress. And today I want to highlight that, just in case this is something you're doing as well. It could be hindering your performance if you're an athlete or you're somebody who is training for something specific, or if you are somebody who wants to lose fat and build muscle and you aren't seeing the progress you want. It could be stopping your progress tremendously. And this is something I like to talk to with women I work with, because a lot of people come into my program and they're just like, okay, here's what I've been doing for years and here's what I've been told. Let me know if this is what I should do. And we fix those things and they see so much progress. So this is why I think it's something I want all the women that I know in the world to focus on. I am tired of Hollywood promoting these malnourished women and honestly look like they could use a sandwich in order to promote skinny culture, or in order to promote what, being lean looks like. And it's just getting a little tiring. And what I'm seeing a lot more of is women eating more nutritious foods. They're going to the gym, and it's making me really happy that a lot of people are starting to see that this is just not the way to go. Like, there's something wrong here that we are all believing. And so, yeah, that's what I want to talk about today. But before we get into it, I want to start off with a few verses to highlight everything I want to talk about. So the first verse that I want to highlight is 1 Corinthians 10:31, which states, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God." And I absolutely love this verse because it is a reminder that we are not just eating to look good, or we aren't just eating to feel good even. Really, we are eating because we need to nourish ourselves. We need to give God glory. And I used to separate the two. I used to think, okay, I'm eating the foods I need to eat so that I can have the results I want on the track when I was an athlete. Or if I am trying to lose, 5 pounds on the scale in fat, I'm eating so I can be in this fat loss stage. And while these goals aren't inherently bad, I think when we get to the point of obsessing over it is when we forget why we're actually doing it. When we can remember that what we're doing is glorifying God, it really changes your perspective as to, okay, what kinds of foods will actually nourish this temple God has given me. We know that God has given us this body to really handle well and to really steward well. And so that kind of helps me to reframe, okay, this food's actually going to help me push myself in the way that I'm supposed to be pushed, or this food is really going to help me have energy throughout the day. Having this reminder is so important when you are in the trenches and you're like, why am I even doing this? I don't want to sacrifice this thing. And, it's just a reminder that, we're doing it for God's glory. And that's really, really helpful when, you're thinking about the toxic beliefs or the things like fitness culture wants to lie to you about, because you remember, like, the body that God gave me is something to cherish very, very well. And it's also a way that I can glorify him with this blessing. And so that helps me to just kind of keep things in perspective. Another verse that I want to highlight is Proverbs 23:20-21, which says, "Be not among drunkards or among gluttonous eaters of meat, for the drunkard and the glutton will come to poverty, and slumber will clothe them with rags." I like this verse as well to think about, because it's really easy in today's culture to either starve yourself or to be gluttonous. Okay, so there's two sides of the coin. A lot of the fitness culture that is toxic nowadays is telling us to eat less, eat less, eat less, which, I don't agree with. But there's also another side to the coin that's like, okay, just eat when you feel good, feel your feelings. And, sometimes we can eat so much and eat the things that aren't good for our bodies that we're gaining weight, we aren't feeling good, we feel sluggish. And honestly, it's a sin to be gluttonous, as you see here. And so seeing that as well is also a point that helps me keep things in perspective. You can either do too much of one side or do too much of the other. And so keeping that right middle ground is really, really important when you are trying to progress in your goals, but also do it in a way where you're not compromising morals and not doing it in a way that isn't honoring your temple that the Lord wants us to honor. I want to share a little story about how I ended up eating more and ended up seeing so much more progress. So back when I was training for my second Olympic cycle, I really wanted to see myself thrive. And I'm like, you know what? Something's got to change. I have been seeing progress, but not the progress I really want. And so I need to get a coach that's really going to help me with my nutrition, my strength, everything. So my strength coach that year and I sat down and we talked about the goals I had for that year. When he saw what I was eating, he was like, you are under fueling for your goals. And I'm looking at him like, what you mean I'm under fueling? Like, I'm eating a lot, in my opinion, at the time. I thought it was enough food. I don't want to get too big. So I'm like, I'm trying to stay as lean as possible. So I don't want to overeat. I was really concerned with what he was telling me, but he literally was like, if we can get you to increase your calories, eat foods that are properly going to help you reach those goals, you're going to see so much more progress. And I was looking at him sideways. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was like, I don't know about this. But I also recognized that what I was already doing wasn't working in the way I wanted to. So I wanted to make a change. So I trust him. And when I tell you guys the progress that came afterwards was crazy. Okay. Like that was my breakout year after I came back from an injury. And that was the year that I started to really, really thrive in everything I was doing. So I felt so much more energized for my workouts. I was able to go to the gym and have so much more energy so that I could push my weight up higher on the track. I could actually do my sessions a lot better and more efficiently. So I was able to sprint faster. I was able to recover faster because I had enough fuel in my system. My body was actually starting to change its composition. So I got so much more toned because I was actually fueling with a lot of protein. And I was giving my body the carbohydrates so that it could actually replenish what I was losing through my workouts. And I was just doing the things that he told me to do. And when I tell y'all, the progress was incredible. This goes into the first lie that I want to highlight today, which is you always have to be in a calorie deficit in order to see progress. When it comes to nutrition, we need to be in phases with what we're doing, okay? So being in a calorie deficit is necessary in order to actually lose fat. However, there are times in our phases in which we should be eating more than we're eating now. And so when I was working with him initially, we increased my calories, which you can say is a little bit of a surplus, which is more than a calorie deficit. But because I was able to increase my calories, the energy that I was burning allowed me to see more progress down the road. And when we did get into a cut phase, which was closer to my season, I was able to see my body flourish with my body recomposition. My muscles were starting to look more toned, and I was able to just like cut the fat fast because I gave my body what it needed in the initial stages. So yes, I believe calorie deficits are necessary. You need to be in a calorie deficit at some point, but you do not, and I repeat, do not need to be in one consistently every single day in order to continue to see progress. Because here's what's going to happen if you do this. If you stay in a calorie deficit perpetually, your body adapts to that. And once your body adapts, it no longer is in a calorie deficit. It's just going to be back in a maintenance phase. And so what you're going to do is you're going to have to keep lowering your calories lower and lower to see more progress. And then that becomes where you start looking malnourished because you aren't giving yourself the proper things you need day to day. And so you should only be in a calorie deficit probably a month to 8 weeks max. And I would take a break and go back to your maintenance calories. So what is all this maintenance calorie? How do you know what your maintenance calories are? I would say track what you're eating just for a week. I'm not somebody who necessarily relies on tracking, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But track your calories, just see what you're eating, see how many calories a day you think you're eating. So typically for a woman between her 20s and 40s, they're eating about 2,300 calories, maybe 1,900 calories, between those numbers. So once you have an idea of how many calories you might be eating, it will then be so much easier for you to say, okay, now that I know I'm eating this much, let me, either keep it at this level, especially if you're starting to ramp it up in your workouts, or let me drop it down just about 200 to 300 calories. And that's how you figure out your deficit. But like I said, you do not need to be in one constantly in order to see progress, because that's actually going to do more harm than good. So from my story, being in a surplus for a season helped me get my body to a place where I could perform well in my workouts. And then that in itself helped me when I was down in my calorie deficit, because I then saw so much more progress in how my body looked and felt and performed in every way possible. So I just want to encourage you, like, if people are telling you eat less, eat less, eat less, you don't have to do that forever. You just have to do it very strategically. And if you need help figuring this out, I offer that in my one-on-one coaching, where we figure out your plans, we figure out your goals, and we plan out a 16-week program for you that's going to help you achieve some of the things you want. And so that's what I do with my women, and they are seeing a lot of progress. Another thing I want you to pay attention to are your hunger cues. Okay. So like I said, if you are always hungry, that's not something you should neglect. You should listen to your hunger cues and say, okay, am I just hungry or am I thirsty? Like sometimes it really is thirst. So just go drink some water and maybe it really isn't hunger. But also if you are constantly, something is growling, you might be in a little bit too much of a deficit. Okay. We don't need you to be feeling weak and tired every every single day in order to see the progress. You need to find a way where you still have energy, you still are giving yourself what you need, but you are going to feel a little bit of a shift. So that's kind of the difference I want you to pay attention to when it comes to being in a deficit, not being in deficit, being in a surplus. You might just need to be eating more, okay? So that might just be what you need in the season, or you might just need to be at maintenance for a season. But do not believe the lie that you have to constantly eat less in order to see progress, because that is absolutely not true. The next lie that I want to debunk is cutting carbs is necessary for weight loss. I used to be the girl who thought this constantly, okay? And here's the thing. There are certain carbs that can make you feel bloated, that can make you feel tired, that can make you just feel a little bit more sluggish. So I'm not here to say that every carb you're eating is great. You know, sometimes bread for some people does not go well. And I'm going to be real. Like for me, I have to limit my gluten intake, which a lot of, bread and wheat and all this stuff has. And so I don't eat a lot of bread because of that reason. And I might eat like a gluten-free bread, but it doesn't work for me. Carbs is not the enemy. Okay. Carbs is actually your friend, especially when you're trying to hit those macronutrients every single day. Like you want to have carbs in your diet. So just thinking, well, I'm just going to do meat and veg forever is going to leave you so tired, y'all. Like the years that I had no carbs in my life, I promise you, like I was very tired. So here's what I recommend that you do instead of just cutting it out completely. Time your carbs around your workouts. And so you actually have the energy to perform well. So if you want to have less carbs in your day, just plan that out when you aren't working out. So for instance, let's say you work out in the morning. I would have a little bit more carbs around your breakfast and maybe a little bit of carbs around your lunch. You can eat a very light dinner with, maybe a salad or eat something else with veggies and meat for dinner. But do not neglect carbs completely, because you really need them in order to see everything flourish for you. That year that I told you guys I had the best year where I was sitting personal best, feeling my best, that year was the year that I had more carbs. Okay. I wasn't eating a lot of them. I was just being very strategic with what carbs I was eating. So for instance, bananas, fruit. What I would do is I would pay attention to what carbs might make you feel a little bit bloated. Some people hate eating broccoli. Broccoli specifically will make some people bloat. Okay. I know a lot of people who don't feel good when they eat certain carbs. So like I feel very inflamed when I eat bread, but I feel really good when I eat like rice or sweet potato. And so just find what you feel best with and start incorporating more of those things into your diet. And I promise you, like just eating a little bit of that around your workouts will make a huge difference, and taking it out completely is going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you more than help you. And that's part of the reasons why I wasn't seeing the progress I wanted, was because I wasn't giving myself enough of those carbs in order to have energy. Portion control is definitely important. So I'm not sitting here saying just eat a lot, eat tons and tons of things. I'm saying, how can we get more nutritious things that are going to fill your stomach, but also aren't going to leave you feeling super bloated, super heavy every single day. Okay. So that's what I'm talking about. So yes, there's an element of truth to there's certain foods that will make you feel fat. We don't need to be doing that every single day, but you should not be neglecting them completely in your diet. The next lie that I want to debunk is that you have to track every single calorie to see progress. Listen, that year that I was seeing all that progress, I wasn't tracking like that. Okay. I was looking at my plates. I was looking at each meal I was eating. I was looking at the snacks I was eating, and I was saying, okay, I need to eat more of this. I need to eat more of that. And because it became so intuitive in my life, I was able to eat the right amount of calories. So yes, for you, if you're a beginner, I think it's good for beginners to have an idea of how much they're eating day to day, but long term, I think tracking can be something that people get obsessed with. So it can be either obsessive or it can be really daunting. And so you just go off hamster wheel and you end up not doing anything for it. So do I think tracking is bad? Absolutely not. I think it can be really good for you. Do I think you have to track to see progress? I don't think you need to. Because like I said, because it's become so intuitive for me, I can now see, okay, I'm eating about these many calories a day. I should be lowering this if I'm trying to cut, or I should be eating more if we're in a surplus, or I should be keeping this food in so that I hit my maintenance calories. And so for me, it's just become easy. But I don't want you to feel like, I'm not perfect if I'm not doing this. Okay. There's so many fitness influencers out there that say, well, you have to track if you want to see your goals. And I do think it can help you hit your goals. I absolutely do. But don't fall in the trap of believing that this is going to be a long-term thing for your life, or, oh my gosh, I have to live like this forever. No, this can just be a season. It just can be something that, you have to do right now. And we don't want anything to become obsessive in our lives. And we're trying to do this in a way where we're glorifying God, and we don't want it to become something that all we're doing is thinking about this, because at the end of the day, that's not what nutrition is about. It is genuinely about fueling our bodies so that we can function in the way we're supposed to. And along with that, hopefully hitting some of our goals along the way. The next lie that I want to debunk is you have to have small portions for every single meal. So I did a reel not too long ago about some of the meals that we're eating as fast food, how they give you so little food, but it looks so good because it's like, oh, you got the sandwich and you got the fries, and you look at the portion, you're like, it's actually not that much food. but the calories are insane. And so you have this small portion high in calorie, whereas a chicken power bowl with a lot of vegetables, a lot of chicken, a lot of different things like sweet potato, quinoa, those type of bowls, those can be big. Okay, those can look really, really large, but they are also so much lower in calories. So I did a comparison, I believe, of a Chick-fil-A meal, which was like 900 calories, and a power bowl, which was 400 calories, and the difference in size was drastically different. So portions do not necessarily have to be small. It's all about what you choose to eat. Now, am I opposed to you going out and getting the Chick-fil-A sandwich? No, but just recognize you're going to be eating a lot of calories for little food. You're probably going to be hungry in about an hour, whereas that power bowl is going to leave you feeling satiated for longer throughout your day. So if you're trying to avoid binging and you're trying to avoid just snacking and eating whenever you want and falling into that gluttonous category we talked about earlier, then you're going to want to fill your body with more of those high volume, low calorie meals than these small volume, high calorie meals that aren't going to leave you satiated. Look at the nutrition facts when you are trying to order things. There are definitely healthy swaps, especially when you go out to eat at restaurants that you can be making. And honestly, those little swaps won't even be that big of a difference. Like there are, grilled chicken sandwiches versus fried chicken sandwiches. And there's just certain things that if you just switch up a little bit of what you're eating, the calories go down a lot and you actually feel better. Okay. So just a reminder that you can eat more food and still see huge progress. That's just something to think about as you are approaching your nutrition. The next lie I want us to go into is that falling off for a period of time will derail your progress. Here's the thing. Obviously, if you don't do anything for your nutrition and you don't do any workouts for 4 months, you aren't going to see progress, okay? You really aren't. However, falling off for 1 week, 2 weeks, even 3 weeks sometimes really does not set you back as much as you think it is. And what I see a lot with people, especially like clients and people I work with, is they maybe fall off for 3 or 4 days and they're just like, oh my gosh, I failed. This is really hard. I just don't even know how to come back from this. And it's like, you guys, like, do not believe that a couple days off of not doing your workout or taking a vacation and you weren't able to fit in your workouts or hit your macros is going to set you back that much. You can maybe fall off for a few days and then just get right back on track. And I'll be honest, I remember in some of my off seasons, I would take 2 weeks off from, eating the way I normally do and just like kind of give myself a break, and I came back after those 2 weeks so refreshed and felt really, really good. So sometimes our bodies just need a break from what we're doing consistently. And I'm not saying go out here and don't do any of your workouts, but if you have not been seeing progress the way you want and you feel like it's stalled, maybe you just need to take a week or 2 off from the tracking, figuring out what food you should be eating 24/7. Like sometimes we are stressing ourselves out so much that we are in return derailing our progress because our body is holding on to the stress, the cortisol, all those things, and we can't actually see the progress. Let this serve as a reminder that if you fall off, if your days aren't perfect, if you feel like you need a break, that's not going to derail your progress. What really derails your progress is when you say, okay, it's been 3 days, I haven't done this perfectly, I'm just going to take off a couple more weeks because I can't be bothered. That's when you start to see, the compound effect of not progressing. Okay. So please, 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 like if there's anything else you take from this podcast and this episode is do not allow a couple days off or falling backwards to set you back completely. Because if you just get right back up, you get right back into the habits, you get right back into the eating of the good foods, you're going to feel great. You're going to feel like you're progressing again. You're going to start seeing those micro wins once again because now you're back in your element. Do not strive for perfection. A lot of these gurus will have you thinking like if you aren't perfect, you might as well not even try. And I'm here to tell you that is a lie from the enemy because he doesn't want you to see progress. And I'm here to remind you that you will see the progress you want as long as you continue to make headway towards your goals and you don't allow one setback to completely make you go into a spiral. So I want to close with this. God did not create you to shrink. He created your body to flourish because you have the Holy Spirit within you, okay? We are meant to give our body what it needs. Now, this isn't to say we need to be going crazy with it and we aren't going to be gluttonous, okay? But we are going to need to be fueling our body in order to see the progress we want, especially with the muscle gain, especially with toning up, especially when we're working out. Like we cannot be starving ourselves. We cannot be under fueling. We cannot be stressing our bodies out so much in order to hit our nutrition goals. If you've been feeling stuck and you just feel like, why am I not seeing the progress? One of these things might be something that you're dealing with or experiencing, and I don't want you to fall into the trap that I was falling into. So please remember that there are things that you might hear on the internet, and you should not take everything at face value. Do not believe everything you hear. Even things that I say, go pray about it. If it feels like it aligns with you, great. What I don't want for you guys to do is just take in all this information because it is so easy nowadays to take everything you hear from the internet and try to apply it to your life. Like, okay, I heard this guru say this. I heard this fitness person say this. I heard this coach say that. Like, there's just so much information out there. And so I want you to take some of these nuggets that you're hearing and don't fall into the toxic ones I just shared, and go try it for yourself. Go experiment. Go see what works for you. If it's not tracking for a little bit, go try that out. If it's eating a little bit more to see where your energy lays, go try that out. One of the things I want you to do this week is go figure out which one of these lies you've been believing for so long. Where am I struggling mentally? Like, is it the binging? Is it the under eating? Like, where is it? Something I also didn't talk about earlier was binge eating. And so binge eating comes when we have all that food noise. We have a lot of food noise when we aren't giving our bodies what it needs, okay? And so when you are constantly depriving yourself of what you really need, i.e. proper macros, the hydration, the, vegetables that are going to give you what you need, like all these things are what gives you that food noise. And so for me, for instance, I have cravings sometimes of something really sweet or something really salty, and that sometimes makes me fall into a binge. But I have to check myself and say, okay, Cindy, how has your nutrition been this week? Like, have you really been giving yourself what you need? Can you dial back a little bit on the sweet treats that make me crave more sweets? Or can I start filling myself up with more greenery so that I don't have these really, really salty cravings? Whatever it is, I try to question, where can I go back and how can I apply this to my situation? And also, a lot of binging comes from boredom as well. So remember, if you are bored, do not allow food to just become your comfort. Okay. That's also where we fall into the gluttonous. Like, we're not doing it to honor our bodies. We're just doing it out of boredom or doing it out of comfort. Like, we need to remember that when we are just going to get ready to binge. And so I highly recommend just drinking water. If you feel like, okay, I'm about to binge, go drink some water, go drink something, give yourself 20 minutes. And more likely than not, you were just thirsty or bored, and you're going to either forget about it or you're going to be like, okay, there's something else I need to do, and just move on to the next thing. And so that's one way that I have been able to combat binging. But back to what I was saying, this week, I want you to figure out which of these lies you may have been believing or which ones you are struggling with, and try to shift the way you approach it. Figure out, let me just see one thing that I can do differently and start applying that for a week. And I promise you will start to feel like you have more control over your food, over your body, and over what you're doing day to day when it comes to your nutrition. So one analogy I love to think about are Ferraris, like really nice cars, right? If you were given a Ferrari today and you were told you have to fuel it properly, you have to make sure it has everything it needs in order for it to work so you can keep having it, you would make sure you took good care of it. Our bodies are 1,000 times more valuable than that Ferrari, okay? Start thinking of your body as a high-class thing that is super delicate, that needs to be taken care of, and God puts it a high value, and you will start to show up differently. When you are aware of the value of what you're carrying around day to day, and you won't allow yourself to just consistently neglect it. So remembering this and remembering how much more value the Lord gave you with your body, with everything you have, with your abilities, with all these things in regarding to your fitness, remembering all of these when you're stressed or you feel like I don't know what to do or I'm a little bit discouraged, this will help kind of change your perspective, and this will help you to keep going when times get hard. If you are somebody who wants guidance, whether you're an athlete or you're a woman who's looking to lose fat and build muscle, and you want nutrition guidance where you are being led to see a plan that works for you when it comes to your goals, when it comes to your strength, when it comes to your workouts, then I highly encourage you to go apply for my Faithfully Elite one-on-one coaching. I will have the link in the description and the show notes for you guys. I have been working on this with the women I work with, and they have been seeing some really, really good progress in their bodies, and they feel really good as well. And they now have the ability to make their decisions on their own because they now understand how to navigate their nutrition, how to navigate their habits when it comes to food. And so if that sounds like something you need, I highly recommend you apply, because I will be starting my next cohort in a few weeks, and I am taking on women who are really serious and who want to see real change in the next few months. It'll be really, really good because, we're headed into the holiday season in a few months, and this will give you so much control back. It will help you so much with navigating food noise, especially as the holidays come up, because we all know how hard it can get sometimes around the holidays. And I think it'll be really, really good. So if that's something you want to do, make sure to go apply. Or if you're not ready for that yet and you want some guidance as to different foods and timing and workouts you could be doing, they'll get my free Faithfully Fit Body blueprint in the description as well. And that would hopefully help you kickstart a few things. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And if you did, make sure to go give this podcast a 5-star rating. It really helps me get it pushed out to other people. Also, leave a comment on something that you enjoyed, and I will make sure to provide more content for you guys in the future. I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye for now.